If you've ever struggled to explain your value to sellers or felt pressure to drop your commission just to win the listing, this will change everything. Here's a simple playbook that helps you confidently list at 8%, sell homes faster, and net your sellers more money. And in the wake of the NAR settlement, it's working even better than before. I'm Levi Jones, founder and head coach at Guerilla Realty, and this is the same listing strategy I use myself, not just to get more leads, but to serve my clients better and win more listings at full commission. Just ask Connor, who used this approach to take 2 listings in a single week, both at 8%, and banked over 20 grand in commissions in a market where homes average only $250K. Or Tammy from Texas, who landed a $425,000 listing at 8% the very first time she used it. Now, I'm not here to sell you anything, no course, no program, nothing. If this helps you, just like the video, share it with one agent friend, and comment below that you did. I'll send you a private link with the full step-by-step playbook, ads, scripts, the whole thing, 100% free. Here's what we'll cover in this video. First, we'll talk about why listing at 8% isn't just ethical, it's the most responsible thing you can do for your sellers. You'll learn how charging more can actually serve your clients better, not worse, and why the agents who command higher commissions are often the ones delivering the best results. This session will break down the real math, the common misconceptions, and how to confidently explain the value in a way that sellers respect and respond to. If you've ever struggled to justify your fee or felt guilty charging more, this lesson gives you the mindset and the messaging that you need. Then we'll cover how to set the table so sellers want to list with you before you even get to the presentation. Most agents show up hoping to convince the seller, and this strategy will flip the script on that. You'll learn how to walk in with authority by becoming a market expert, setting expectations, and using real data to build instant credibility. When you prepare this way, the seller is already leaning yes before you even pitch your plan. And then finally, we'll go through how to win every single listing appointment without fancy slides, expensive flyers, or in-person meetings. You'll see how to use a simple marketing conversation with no slick visuals required to stand out from every other agent they've talked to. Now, this lesson will include the exact framework to walk sellers through the 2 ways to sell a house and how to get them to choose your higher commission strategy themselves. It's the same method that's helped hundreds of agents win listings at a premium rate, many of them straight over the phone, and our team listed 114 homes in a single year. All right, so lesson number 1. Let's talk about something that makes a lot of agents uncomfortable: charging more than what feels normal. This isn't about gaming the system or squeezing clients. It's about aligning your fee with the actual value you bring to the table. If you've ever found yourself second-guessing your commission during a listing appointment or worried that asking for 8% might feel greedy or something, this is where we separate myth from truth. I want to reframe how you think about commission, not just as a paycheck, but as a reflection of service, outcome, and your responsibility as an agent. I get asked all the time, how can I serve my clients by charging them more? As if there's somehow something wrong. Now, I'm going to make a controversial statement, especially controversial in today's climate where richness is somehow vilified, but it is possible to do the right thing and make good money. I'm going to state that again. It is possible to do the right thing and make good money. In fact, I'm going to talk about it in terms of value. So let's talk about agency for a moment. Okay. Now, this is probably not where you expected me to go with this, but as the listing agent, you have a fiduciary obligation to put your seller's interest above your own. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Well, sellers really only want 2 things. Most sellers want to sell their home as fast as possible. Okay. The second thing that they want is they want to net as much money as possible. Now, again, how they prioritize these 2 things is going to be different depending on your seller, but those are the 2 things that sellers always want. And if you knew of a strategy that allowed you to sell the homes more quickly and to net your client more money, and it just happened to also pay you at a higher rate, then it's absolutely ethical to list at 8%. It's not greedy. It's not squeezing your client, anything like that. Section 2. Before you ever walk into a listing appointment, or even pick up the phone, there's a moment to shape how you'll be perceived. Now, most agents skip this step entirely. They show up and they start pitching. But what if you could quietly position yourself as the obvious choice before the presentation even starts? This next part is all about preparation, not the kind you print out or memorize, but the kind that builds trust before you say a word. What we're really talking about is becoming a market authority. This is the kind of authority that translates when you walk into a listing appointment and you can go beyond talking about the shift that's happening and know actual numbers. And you know them because you've explored them, you've done it intentionally. Now, you're not going to become a market authority overnight, but if you know a few numbers, you can speak confidently about the market and what's happening, and specifically what's happening to listings in your area. So, number one that you need is you need a great CMA that you are confident in. Now, we have a bulletproof CMA. We've went through it in a previous video. I'll link to it here. This bulletproof CMA is a 50-point statistical analysis. It is not your grandma's CMA, but you need to have a great CMA that is statistically accurate and that you're confident in the valuation. The second thing that you need to know is you need to know the days on market and the absorption rate for your area. This is so that you can communicate expectations. Right now in my market, the average days on market is 91 days. It would be foolish for me to take a 30 or 60-day listing contract if I knew that the average days on market is 91 days. Okay, so I need to know that number, and you do as well. And by the way, the MLS number that they give you in their published stats is probably wrong, probably off by a factor of 3 or 4. So we'll actually go through in a moment how to calculate the DOM with one of our tools. You're also going to want to know the list to sell discount. This is the average amount under the list price, or it might be the over the list price that the seller that it actually sells for. And then finally, you want to know the appreciation rate for your area. Again, you don't want to go by the MLS market stats necessarily. You want to actually be able to calculate this on your own. I'm going to go through a couple of our tools and share them with you so that you can begin to become a market authority. All right, the first tool that I want to share with you that will absolutely help you become a market authority is Bulletproof CMA. You can access a free account at bulletproofcma.com. No, you don't have to pay a dime for it. It is 100% more effective, more accurate than RPR, Cloud CMA. Those are all based off of the traditional CMA that uses 3 data points and a wish and a prayer, basically, to get a valuation. With this, you're actually going to bring in 50 data points. It's a statistical analysis. There's no weird voodoo or anything like that. You're just going to go in here, create a new, and it'll actually lead you through how to enter in all the data from your MLS. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details during this video. I'll link to a video above on that we've already done on how to use this in more detail. All right, the second tool that I'm going to show you is again, completely free, and it's going to help you come up with the last 3 numbers that you need to become a market authority. Again, you'll become a market authority the more you invest in your education and knowing your market, but this will be enough to get you started and talking confidently at your listing appointments. So the first thing that we want to know is the absorption rate, the days on market. Again, the number that your MLS feeds you is wrong. It doesn't include all the properties that sell. Again, think about it. It includes the average days on market for the properties that sell. So we want to calculate it on our own, but we use our MLS. So I'm going to show you real quick how I use my MLS. So the absorption rate, and by the way, all of our calculators, when you open them up, you just have to make a copy real quick. And so I have it open. I want to calculate 3 months of absorption. Now, if you're not familiar with absorption rate, it just means how often does the current inventory turn over, or is it absorbed into the market? And so we want to know the number of homes sold. Really, we just need 2 inputs. It's really simple. The number of homes sold in the last 3 months. So sold 0 to 90 days ago. Okay. And I hit results. Oh, go back to criteria. I'm going to type in my city too. I'm looking for that specifically. So we got 827. and then the number of active listings. Okay, so this time we choose active, and there's currently 877. And all I got to do is type in these two numbers. It calculates the rest. In fact, the true days on market in my local area is 95 days. There's 3 months of inventory, and the monthly absorption rate is 31%. These are numbers that I'm going to regularly look up so that I can confidently talk about. Now, the second one is list to sell discount. Again, I'm going to go make a copy. Okay. And so I'm going to, again, just look up numbers in my MLS. So list to sell discount, I need the average list price and the average sale price right now. Okay. So we'll do sold over the last 90 days. I'm going to go to results. In my local MLS, I'm able to access stats tabular, and I can do the average list price was $276,393. 276,393, and then the average closed price is 272,320. A little bit less, okay, and that means the average discount in my area is 1.5%. Now, wouldn't this be great information to walk into a listing appointment and just talk about it with your sellers? Set expectations right out of the gate. Not that they necessarily have to settle for 1.5% less, but so that this is out there on the table as, again, it cuts away, it prevents future difficult conversations if you've been upfront with them about what the realities of your market's like. Now, the final number that you want to know is your appreciation rate. Again, this is something that you can calculate on your own. So let's say that we wanted the appreciation rate over the last, not 3 years, let's say we just wanted over the last 2 years. Well, first we got to make a copy. And again, this is just a Google Doc, so really easy to do that. And I'm going to go in here and just type 2, and then it gives me the date ranges to look up the average sale price. So I'm going to go 5/5/2022 through 5/5/2023. That's when I'm recording, or 5/5 is when I'm recording this video. So we'll just go into sold. And again, I'm just going to, I'm doing it in my MLS. Your MLS, I promise you, has the same capabilities. You may even have to call your MLS and ask, but we need the average closed price during that time. Now, some of you are going to be like, wow, home prices are so low. 229,652 is the average sale price during that time. 52. Okay. Now let's find the ending date range. So this is over the last year. And so I'm going to go in, hit criteria, and I'm going to clear this out real quick. 5/5, go forward. 5/5 of this year. We're going to, again, go to results, stats, tabular. If you have matrix, yours probably looks like this. If you don't, there is a way that you can find this data in your MLS. Again, you may have to call your MLS and ask them. They're the experts on it. Why not? It's what you're paying them for. 265,360. 265,360. Now, hopefully this is just demystifying this whole process for you. Now, over the last 2 years in my local market, we've had an appreciation rate of 7.5%. If we were to go back 3-4 years, it's probably even higher, because some of those first years after COVID were significantly a higher appreciation rate. But now I can walk in and say, hey, this is what's going on in the market. I don't have to pretend to know something or pull something out of my hind parts. I actually know real numbers, and I promise you it communicates in subtle ways that you can't even really put your finger on when you know the details of your market. All right, the final section. Winning a listing isn't about being the most polished or having the flashiest tools. It comes down to clarity, confidence, and showing sellers a strategy that actually makes sense. In this final section, I'm going to walk you through how to have that conversation, one that cuts through confusion and gets the seller genuinely excited to work with you. And no, you don't need a slick slideshow or in-person theatrics to make it work. Here's the part you've probably been waiting on. Now, if you ask 100 agents, they're going to give you 100 different ways to sell a house. But the reality is there's really only 2 ways to sell a house. So all those hundreds fall into one of 2 categories. The first category is the price approach. Okay, so what is the price approach? This is going to use price to sell the property. Okay, Now, here's the thing. It always closes the deal. Eventually, the home sells. If you use price to sell the property, if you lower it low enough, it will close the deal, but it takes longer and it will almost always fetch a lower price. Okay. Now, here's the second way, and this is the way that we're going to promote to our potential customer, is the traffic approach. Now, again, this is just Econ 101, supply and demand. If we can increase the traffic, we've increased the demand. So instead of using the price to sell the property, we're going to use traffic to sell the property. How do we get traffic? We'll get into that. But on average, and we've been running this for nearly 20 years now, we are able to sell using traffic to sell the property. We're able to sell in 55% of the average days on market. So we sell quicker and we net the seller more money. We get top dollar for this house every single time. When I run the numbers with you here in a moment, you'll immediately understand why. Now, for any of this to work, we have to start with a solid valuation. And that's why I mentioned the bulletproof CMA before. Now, a valuation for a home does not work the same way as a loaf of bread. It is not a single price. There's something in economics called price elasticity. Home prices are elastic. What we come up with when we use the bulletproof CMA is a reasonable range of value. You'll see this on the bulletproof CMA. In other words, there's not a single price that this home should go for. The reasonable range of value is a 10% band that basically says, hey, anywhere within this range, there is not, the seller is not getting over on the buyer's not getting over. This is all reasonable within this band. Okay. Now, the reason why we present this to the seller as a reasonable range of value. So what the price approach does is it takes the low end of the reasonable range of value and it sets the price there. Again, we're trying to attract people based on price. If you were to take this to the extreme, of course you can find a buyer for any property if you lower the price down to $1 or $10 or something ridiculous. Again, that's the extreme. That doesn't have to happen. But if you lower it to the low end, you will always attract someone via price. Okay. What the price approach is, we're going to list it at the low end of the reasonable range of value. And whether or not you recognize you were doing this is likely if you're selling your properties using the price, this is what you're doing. You're listing at the low end. And again, in the scenario here, the low end is $200,000, where we're going to reduce the price 5% every 30 days, or as much and as long as it takes to sell. And if the average days on market is 90 plus days, that's going to be 3-4 different times. Now, why is it every 30 days? Well, we all have had that call from the seller when they have to make that second mortgage payment again. Hey, are we selling the thing or what? Right? So, and we're like, well, the market's spoken. It's time to lower the price again. And I know that this is what agents do, because if you go to any agent and ask them their advice, in fact, I defy you to do this and say, hey, my property's having trouble selling. What should I do? It's been on the market for 30 days. What should I do with it? Every seller, almost without fail, will say, well, if it hasn't sold in 30 days, you should lower the price. Okay. Again, they don't have any unique marketing ideas. They don't have anything else. It's, hey, you should lower the price. This is what most agents use. Okay. Hopefully I'm not stepping on toes here, but I'm going to show you a better way here in a minute. Eventually, this is going to suck in some bottom feeder. Okay. And it sells it every single time. It does have a 100% sell rate. If you keep reducing the price, you will eventually sell the property. Now, here's the traffic approach. We're going to list the property at the high end of the reasonable range. And you're probably already thinking, well, how the heck do I do that? Again, we're not using price to sell the property. Instead, we're increasing the traffic. So we're going to list it at the high end. In this case, it's 221 with this hypothetical example. We're going to list it at 8% as a bribe. Now, what do I mean by 8%? That means we're going to offer a 4% buyer cooperation fee. Okay. Now, some of you are like, well, that's nice. You're not allowed to advertise that anymore. Of course, you're allowed to advertise it. You are simply not allowed to put it on the MLS. You can advertise it everywhere else. And in fact, we absolutely do email marketing. We put it on sign writers. We put pre-filled out touring agreements in our homes. We put 4% everywhere. And it absolutely, in fact, it even works better now that some listing agents are not, or some sellers through their listing agents are not offering the 4% or 3% or whatever the case. 4% is what we use because it is a premium in our market, but it may be that 6% or 3% buyer BAC is a premium in your market. Now, when we do that, the reality is it does increase traffic. Now, I know some of you are already saying, well, I don't look at the commission when I just want to serve my customers. And I 100% believe you. In fact, I don't think most agents would ever take their buyer to a home that doesn't fit their needs just because of the commission rate. However, if there are 10 different homes that all meet the buyer's needs, and you're trying to put together a showing list, you are absolutely going to make sure the one that's offering a 4% BAC is on the list. Now, when you do this, you are going to double, triple, sometimes quadruple your showings, okay? You're increasing traffic, not because they're all attracted via the price. They're attracted because the agents are bringing the people through, okay? Again, it's simple supply and demand. Now, when you do that, again, it also sells the house. We're artificially boosting the traffic here. Now, so let's look at the numbers here. Why does this work, even though we're offering a higher commission? How does that fetch top dollar or net our seller more money? Let's look at the numbers. During the price approach, we listed at the low end $200,000. We offered a 6% commission. Again, sometimes agents nowadays are not offering any sort of commission, so it takes even longer. You got to lower the price even more. And that seller, again, before escrow or anything like that, they're going to net $188,000 just from the commission off the list price. Now, with the traffic approach, we're going to list it at $221,000. Again, that's the high end of the reasonable range of value, and we're going to offer 8% commission. We're going to net that seller $203,000 or a little bit more than that. And not only that, but because we're artificially boosting the traffic, we're selling in half the time. Now, I'll go ahead and address a few of the things that I know that comes up. I get people saying, hey, that's great. All these numbers work out. What happens if it doesn't appraise? And I would just ask, okay, if it's not going to appraise, it probably wouldn't appraise at the low end of the reasonable range of value. But let's say that the appraisal came in on this hypothetical property at 210. So you got a contract at 221. The appraisal came in at 210. Again, you could run the numbers. The reality is you still net your seller more money, and you have guaranteed that you are absolutely fetching 100% top dollar for this property. In other words, they couldn't have got a higher price even if the appraisal comes in a little bit low. Now, we all know what happens. Even now, appraisers are very, very likely to come at a contract price if they can at all justify it. And again, we're within the reasonable range of value, so usually they can. A couple quick notes on this presentation. You don't need a slick PowerPoint or a stack of glossy brochures to win listings with this strategy. In fact, you can walk a seller through the entire thing right over the phone without ever stepping foot into a messy living room while their kids are hanging from the curtains. What you do need is a completed bulletproof CMA and the confidence that comes from knowing your market inside and out. That's what gives you the edge, because when you show up with a clear, data-driven plan and a unique marketing strategy that actually makes sense, sellers listen. You're not just another agent promising the moon. You're offering a proven method to sell their home faster and help them walk away with more money. Again, those are the two things they care about. So whether you're meeting in person or talking over the phone, just keep it simple. Back it up with real numbers and speak with the kind of confidence that comes only from doing your homework. That's how you win listings, without gimmicks, without pressure, and without ever lowering your value. Thanks so much for sticking with me to the end of this video. I hope this gave you a new perspective on how listing at 8% done the right way can help your sellers win and set you apart in your market. If you're ready to put this into action, I've put together a complete swipe file with everything you need to get started. Scripts, breakdowns, templates, and a step-by-step walkthrough. All you need to do is like this video, share it with one agent friend, just one, and drop a comment below saying you did. Once you do that, I'll send you a private link with the full toolkit, 100% free. And if you found this valuable, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any future trainings on how to grow your real estate business, win more listings, and serve your clients at the highest level. We'll see you on the next one.
Look, we've doubled our real estate business 3 times since 2019. If you want the full breakdown, exact scripts, step-by-step processes, and our brand new tool, drop a comment below.
No gimmicks, no paywalls. We're sending it completely free because we know it works.
Just type "send it" in the comments and we'll get it to you ASAP.
And if this was helpful, stick with us. We're dropping more strategies twice a week. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next.